I've clicked onto the Global Tropical Overview for July the 11th, 2023. As is always the case in these videos, I'll take my share or mine alone, and when making decisions ahead of any tropical cyclones, look toward the local weather office, local emergency management, and local tropical cyclone warning center. So today we're just going to be focusing on Invest 94E in the Eastern Pacific, and this is a close-up visible loop of it. And we're seeing sometimes today that this system is almost a tropical cyclone. If we look in the low-level cloud field on the visible satellite, we can see some southeasterly winds streaming in. We get a better arrow there, streaming in onto the eastern and northern side of the circulation. If we look at the western side over here, you can get a semblance of some northerly winds wrapping into the southern side of the system as they turn more northwesterly. And it's difficult to see the low-level flow in the northern part, but there might be just a semblance of some east-southeasterly winds turning to more easterly winds on the northern side, indicating that perhaps they have an area of low pressure somewhere in here underneath this convection. And this is backed by ASCAT. As we got it passed earlier today, you can see the general circulation here. It doesn't look the best on ASCAT. We have some northerly winds here on the western side of the circulation, and then they turn more northwesterly, and then we immediately get more easterly winds. This could be a factor of the center of circulation actually being pretty small and compact on this system. Just for reference, where we were looking, here's the big picture of the East Pacific. The center that we just pointed out is here. So it is very small, and this is a very compact system. So there might be some resolution issues with ASCAT not being able to fully get a good picture of that. So given that, it is fair to say that 94E is probably getting fairly close to being a tropical depression or storm at this point. And as the system continues to track generally westwards, we're going to see likely some intensification take place. And this is a 200 millibar flow map from the GFS. To start off, you can see there is some shear impacting the system a little bit, perhaps from the upper level ridge here over northern Mexico and southwestern US. And you can see some of the cloud elements of that shear in the water vapor loop, and you can see some of the cloud elements moving towards the southwest. Now, this shear is not going to persist for long. In fact, this shear is going to really get better for the storm over the next several days. You can see here's a flow at 36 hours out, and what we've got is now no longer that northeasterly flow. I'm having issues with my directions today, it seems. We no longer have that flow impinging upon the storm. Now we just have diverging flow aloft away from it on the southwestern side. Now, if I get a sounding over the system as well, you'll note how low the shear has gotten now. It's now less than 10 knots throughout the entire troposphere. You can see in general the pattern here has the flow fairly uniform. Of course, there is a little bit of shear because we have more southeasterly winds in the low to mid levels and then more easterly winds in the mid levels, but this is not a great shear. And this system would likely be able to fend off that shear, even being a compact system. Now, the European shows a similar thing. Here's the initialization. You can see some of the stronger flow from that ridge aloft, but you can also see that diverging flow aloft on the southwestern side. And as I go out, say, 36 hours out on this model as well, you can see the strong flow pushing against it from the northeast has subsided, and now we have just diverging flow aloft on the southwestern side. So already atmospherics are looking pretty good. Now, in terms of oceanic conditions, the oceans are pretty warm. This is the HAFS-B model. This is one of the new hurricane models that became operational this year. And you can see that as this system tracks generally west-northwest, it's going to be in warm sea surface temperatures for quite a while. Unlike systems like Adrian and 93E, where it ran into the 26-degree isotherm really quickly after development, the system is going to have quite a bit of time inside the very warm sea surface temperatures of the Eastern Pacific. Now you can see that the HAFS model is intensifying this into a hurricane. It looks like a pretty strong one at that, but eventually it does run into the 26-degree isotherm, and this is where some of the issues will come in for its intensification, as we have again those negative sea surface temperature anomalies this year west of Baja California. But after this point, we start to get into some potential impact discussion for Hawaii. Now, the sea surface temperatures on approach to Hawaii are not good for tropical cyclones. You can see east of the islands entirely, east of the islands entirely, we have sea surface temperatures less than 26 degrees Celsius. They really don't increase again until to the threshold for tropical cyclones, that's being 26 degrees Celsius, until you get west of the islands. Though, if the system does manage to get strong, it may have a stronger vortex that is able to withstand the cooler sea surface temperatures on approach to Hawaii. And we are seeing some signs from the modeling that may occur. Here's a GFS 500 millibar flow, and what we've got a ridge to the north of the system. Here's a storm right there east of Hawaii, and this ridge is going to be moving west with the system. So this is going to keep it moving westerly. And you can see over time the system does weaken as you'd expect, but we start to see the system come through Hawaii on the model. Now, at this point, I doubt it's a tropical cyclone, but this could still bring some adverse impacts, including perhaps some gusty winds and heavy rainfall to the Hawaiian Islands. Now, the European is also agreeing on this general solution. We've seen the models come into a better agreement on how this system may evolve in this type of a track. You can see the European is very similar to the GFS on exactly how it tracks it, with that ridge following it towards the west. Now, this is again the hurricane model showing the sea surface temperature plot. Now, these don't go out as far as the GFS and European do. I'd like to point out that is also past 7 days out, so there is still a lot of time for things to change, but that's just a general idea of this system could come towards Hawaii in the longer range. Now, there is some difference in there are two versions of the HAPS model that we have, A and B. What I'm showing you is B. I'm going to now switch to A, and what you'll notice, I can scroll down so it's more obvious, the HAPS A is a little bit further south on the modeling here. If it is a bit further south, it is closer to the warmer sea surface temperature, so that might indicate that maybe it can sustain itself for a little bit longer, maybe even a little bit better if it is further south than rather if it goes further north into the very, very cold sea surface temperatures for a tropical cyclone, that is. Now here's the GFS ensemble track map, and you can see the general idea of what I just outlined there. Intensification over the next several days as it remains in the warm sea surface temperatures, and then general weakening on approach to Hawaii. Now, regardless of what happens here, even if it's north or south, like I showed you on the HAPS modeling, it will likely not be really anything too strong as it comes towards Hawaii. Because even if it is farther south, look how far south the 26-degree isotherm is. The negative sea surface temperature anomalies are really keeping that 26-degree isotherm far south this year. So that is some good news, but we could see some adverse impact. And for those in Hawaii looking for information on that, look towards the National Weather Service there and the Central Pacific Hurricane Center. They're going to have the best information ahead of the storm on that. Now, here's the National Hurricane Center graphic, and you can see they're giving about a 90% chance of this system developing over the next really day or so. It's really very close to a tropical depression right now. I wouldn't be surprised to see this get designated tonight or early tomorrow, and we'll have to see what they first forecast. But I'd give a pretty good bet that this system would easily become a hurricane in East Pacific. And given if it plays its cards right, this could be one of the stronger storms of the season, perhaps similar to the past 2 Julys we've had, having 2 strong storms in July. Now, there is an Atlantic system that I feel like I should briefly mention here. I'll go to the National Hurricane Center website. You can see there's an area of low pressure in the central Atlantic, well away from any land areas, and as this comes further into the central Atlantic, it may acquire some tropical or subtropical characteristics, and we could see a subtropical or tropical depression or storm. Now, the good news is there's going to be ridging blocking it from coming towards the Azores, And eventually, in the longer range, I've looked at modeling, see if it could potentially come towards the Azores. Modeling has the system weakening eventually while it's still blocked by ridging. So right now, we're not really looking at any significant impacts here at all to any land areas from this system, but could be a neat little subtropical system that we could see in the central Atlantic this week. But that's it for now. Thanks for watching.